Well, greetings, blessings, and welcome to you. All right. Before we get into Satsang tonight, I'd like to share all of our announcements that we have. We have a lot going on. So we have a retreat coming up, the Being Open and Being Free retreat online. And this is November 7th through the 9th. We have a in-person retreat in Washington State in January 15th through the 18th, 2026. And then we have the Spiritual Awakening Symposium at the Shivananda Ashram in the Bahamas, March 29th through April 2nd. I do hope you can join us for any and all the events. And so if you need a scholarship for the online retreat, that's the only retreat I can give a scholarship for, please email me, and please email me soon. I'm just letting everyone know the week before our next retreat, I'm going to be traveling. I know a lot of you wait for that last, that last day before you sign up for the retreat or before you ask for a scholarship. Please don't do that. So our next retreat will be on the cusp of Mercury in retrograde. And that's when communication tends to be off and things go haywire and emails get missed and all that kind of stuff. So please sign up soon, sign up early. And if you need a scholarship, please email me soon because I'm going to be traveling. So let me take a quick peek at the calendar. I'm here tonight. I'll be here on the 22nd for the Kundalini group and the meditation. And I'll be here on the 26th. But after that, I will be missing the meditation on the 29th. I'll be missing Satsang on the 2nd. And I'll probably miss the meditation and the Kundalini group on the 5th. I'm not sure about those. I might teach those. But I'm going to be traveling that week before the retreat, twice. Hope that makes sense. But we're here this week. And we'll be here, all the way through the 26th. And then everything before the retreat is up in the air after that. Hope that makes sense. I'll post it all on Facebook. Okay. So tonight, I'm going to invite us to start by shutting down our eyes and just working with a little bit of spiritual inquiry. I invite you to shut down your eyes and open your heart and just notice what is here right now, right here in this moment, that is awake to the sound of my voice. And I invite you to notice this one, to experience this one. I'm going to invite us to acknowledge as we breathe in and breathe out that there is a silent witness that's always already here, always already awake. And this one notices your various thoughts, your various feelings, how your day's been. But instead of noticing our thoughts and our feelings and how our day's been, I invite you to notice the noticer, to notice the witness, to notice the one who is awake. And as you notice this one, you may have this funny experience of noticing nothing, no thing, noticing something that's silent. And our mind doesn't really know what to do with silence. It doesn't know what to do with no thing. Our mind is interested in drama and chaos and confusion and fear, heartache, despair, pain, something that tastes really good. That's what our mind is interested in, either desire or running away from pain and guarding against pain. But I'm inviting you to do something quite different, something quite extraordinary. Can you simply notice the quiet space that is awake right here? And I invite you to notice that this space, we call it a space of awareness, a space of peace, the eternal eye, the witness, whatever it is, I invite you to notice this and notice that there's no problem here. There may be a problem in the body, maybe a problem in the psychological nature, maybe a mental problem, like we could all think of things we need to do in this world. But if you simply turn around and look directly at awareness, you will see that there's one here who has no problem. And can we open to this one? The one who's silent and radiant and free. And the one who has no problem, the one who's silent, radiant, and free, let's open that one more fully. Let's see if we can get more rooted here in this quiet sense of okayness. And begin to listen and receive. Receive satsang, receive the teachings tonight. Receive this heavenly grace. In fact, let's call upon God right now, saying, "Oh, Heavenly Mother, will you come here and bless us with grace? Will you give us the strength to awaken more fully? Will you give me the strength to look at the depth of what I am and to honor my own divine nature? And will you give me the strength, God, to see through illusion, to see through that which veils our divinity and the divinity of this world? And, Most Holy Mother, will you bless us? Will you bless us with light? And so as we open, you might notice just this radiant energy coming into your crown and your third eye. And right away, it's come with a lot of fire tonight, a lot of heat. That's an energy of transformation. And so please, if there's anything within you that you're ready to let go of, let's place it in this fire. If there's anything here that needs an upgrade, anything that needs to be transformed or transmuted, let's surrender that at the feet of God. Saying, okay, Lord, have your way with us. And so we're breathing, we're feeling, we're softening. We are receiving this light. We are choosing to step into and identify from our deepest nature, that which is awake and aware. We are choosing to be unattached to the mind, to the psyche, and allowing ourselves to be radically open. And so from the space of openness, I invite you to see your consciousness expand, your mind expand, your heart expand, sense of depth of Buddha nature expand. And we smile. So before you open your eyes, we'll get back to the inquiry question. We are going to invite awake awareness to see our own egoic illusions. So I ask you, when you look with an open heart, what egoic illusions do you see? What's the first one that comes forward? And can you meet this with love, with kindness and compassion? Can you see that which veils your consciousness, that which you trip over, that which is in your shadow? And if anyone, has any confusion about this practice, I'll just ask you, when was the last time you overreacted? You overreacted. You had a massive, large, overly intense egoic reaction. And whenever this happens, it points to our own illusions, how we control, how we judge, how we make wrong, how we get lost in righteousness or guilt. Are you willing to see your own illusions? And if that answer is yes, then, well, tell me what illusions are present? What illusions are present? And so with that, you can gently open your eyes, and I welcome you into this space. And I'm going to invite you to continue to have an open crown chakra, an open mind, an open heart, and to receive this grace, to receive this transmission while we come together in satsang and share. And I'm going to invite you to put in the chat, if you saw a fun illusion, and maybe it's not so fun, put it in the chat. Tell me what you learned. I'm curious. Often I say that being human is such a messy ordeal. It's messy because we have this essential nature, an absolute nature, which is divine. Your nature is literally holy. Holy. It's good. It's pure. It's divine. Your nature is made of light, literally. And yet we have this body that's made of flesh. And we have a body that lives in a world that, has to fight for its survival and plays all these power games with others and can get really psychologically confused and hurt. And, we have a body that needs to eat and has fangs, often eats the flesh of other animals. And so it's a funny thing to be born into a body, the body of, I'll call it an omnivore, the body of a predator, even if we're a vegan. It's just like we're still predators here on planet Earth. And yet we have this angelic heart, this vast, empty space of awareness, this depth of Buddha nature. And that just makes for a wild experience, really wild experience. No matter which way you look at it, it's just a wild experience. We have the capacity to be Christ-like, and we also have the capacity to absolutely hate each other. I live in a very interesting place. So I'm about 3 blocks from Main Street, and I'm about I don't know, 6 blocks from a forest that just goes on and on and on, the Great Rocky Mountains. And so I live in this interesting place, so like right on the edge of the wilderness, but right on the edge of town as well. And yesterday there was, some kind of political hubbub of some sort, and a big protest, and there's people honking horns and yelling at each other. It's like the typical right left split, and I don't want to get into it. I'm just so tired of this conversation. But what I saw, because at some point I ended up just out riding my bike with my family on the river trail. We went down to see the river, and there's just mobs of protesters on the river trail, and like blocking off Main Street, and again just people honking. It was just really chaotic, and just so many people fighting, and it was just heartbreaking because in the past, like my state, my town has always been really purple. It's been just a kind of a mix between hippies and ranchers, and but in the modern age where everyone is so full of political ideology, there's just so much fighting and arguing and tension in the air. It's just heartbreaking to see. And I know people on both sides, they think that their side is right and they know the way, and the other side is wrong, and this just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I use the right left paradigm just to talk just about the same way men and women are, or couples are together. It's like we all think we're right all the time. We all think we're right all the time. But if we're going to live in a world together, we have to learn how to work together. And we don't change the world through screaming at each other. It's like if you try to change your partner through screaming at them, it's just like wouldn't work. Now I'll have to confess, at my household, we've been seeing a lot of George Jetson lately. And for those of you who don't know, the Jetsons was a cartoon, like as a cartoon, um, probably like in the 70s or something. It's like when cartoons first came out in color. I don't know if that part's true, but it was from a long time ago. It's just like a really old cartoon. And we don't let my kid watch much, but we let her watch the Jetsons. And it was just really interesting as you see George Jetson, and like sometimes he comes off as like this authoritarian male. He is the patriarch. He's part of the patriarchy. We could all yell at him for that, but he comes across as like kind of like just yelling at his wife or his kids, and this and that, and he's got kind of like this old school male aggression to him, and it just doesn't work well. It just doesn't work well for his family. Doesn't work well just to point the finger and say you're wrong to everyone. And so in the world of spirituality, we play this game, and it's a game of I'm willing to be really wrong. And if I'm willing to be really wrong, then my ideas, my opinions will leave my consciousness very easily if I'm willing to be wrong. But if I'm right, another word for being right is or thinking that we're right is really what it's about. If we think we're right, like that's called being attached. And when we are attached, things don't leave us. They don't leave us. They stay stuck. And when things stay stuck within us, well, we become very congested. And it's just like, sometimes in the winter we get a cold and it creates this inner congestion. But in the world of spiritual awakening, spiritual awakening is synonymous with being very empty, very free. And it's very difficult to be free if we think that we are right all the time, if we know the way. If we know the way. And so in the world of spirituality, we should celebrate when we're wrong. It's like, oh my gosh, I was wrong. I don't need to carry this old belief anymore. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when you discover, like, oh, wow, wow, wow. The world is not how I thought it was. Wow, it's quite different. But when we think we know, it limits the aperture of our consciousness. It squeezes us. And so like when I was, riding my bike with the family, you just saw like all this tension in the air, these people holding these signs, and you could see like the righteousness. So like they really thought they were doing something really good for the world. And maybe they were. But what I saw was just a lot of hatred, tremendous amount of hatred. And I said this last year that we had this protest last year as well. Saw a lot of hatred, a lot of hatred. And what's hilarious is like a lot of these signs talk about compassion and freedom of speech and this type of thing. It's just like, and there's just a lot of hatred there. A lot of hatred. A lot of I'm right. And I don't care if I'm talking about the people with the signs, the people driving by in the big diesel trucks, because that's how the demographic is split here in Colorado. It's the people on the signs, with the bicycles and the purple hair, the green hair, or I saw frog costumes and all kinds of stuff, and rainbow flags and this and that, all kinds of just, all kinds of colors and signs and this and that and costumes. And, some people are just having fun, it seems like. And then there's the guys driving by in the trucks, and the guys in the trucks are like, Trump, and you're wrong. And the other people are like, oh my God, he's a racist. It's just like, I mean, I don't know if he's a racist. Maybe he just likes Trump. But, screaming Trump, screaming, if you don't like it, leave it. That was what I heard. You don't like America, leave America. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. And again, like if you think it works, like just try it in a marriage, try it in a relationship, try it with your kids. Just scream at them, you are wrong. Now, again, in the world of spirituality, there's this path called the higher road, the higher path, the higher way. And on the higher way, like sometimes we sit back and we bite our tongue and we wait and see and we listen. We listen. without knowing. And I can remember I went and saw my teacher so many times. I had so many meetings with my teacher because he was my boss. I was just like with him all the time. And so he'd see me struggling with something. I wouldn't even schedule a session. He would say, he'd just look at me and knew something wasn't right. And he'd just pull me aside and he'd say, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I began to tell him what was going on in my life. My teacher did this thing that was like, it was very different than being like a trauma informed therapist. He wouldn't have anything to do with it. He would listen for a moment and he'd be like, "You are wrong." And the problem with my teacher was he was right. I was wrong. I was confused. I was greatly confused. Now, he wouldn't say to me, "You are wrong." He would say, "What's your part in it? What's your part? What's your responsibility? What did you do, Mr. Holliday, to create this?" And oftentimes I'd like bite my lip. I'd be like, "Dang it." Like, dang it. He's got me. Like he knew. But also I was like, this is what I'm here for. I'm here to learn another way. I'm here to learn another way. So we're going to start with Craig is wrong. Like that's how my days were with my teacher. Craig is wrong. I knew it. I knew I was wrong. It's about what was I wrong about? I was wrong about 95% of everything in my life. So it's a lot of things, a lot of things. And my teacher, I knew he saw from this greater perspective. And so if I was willing to sit and listen and open, and of course, and be wrong, if I could handle being wrong, which I could, I became very proficient at it. I was just like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, yes, this is much better. This is a much better view," is what he'd show me every time. Every time. Now, there were times when my ego would fight back and my blood would boil. But even then, I knew he's right. He's right. And in old school spirituality, like this was just the way the student would show up. And sometimes the student would show up to the gate of the monastery and you have to sit there for a couple months, just to see, just to see what the person was made of, to see if the person had any patience, if they had any humility. Because if they didn't have patience and didn't have humility, well, the spiritual path is a very difficult path. You won't get anywhere if you don't have patience, if you don't have humility. If we know better than, I met with someone the other day. They showed up for the session and they knew better than me. They knew better. I was like, wow, okay. Okay, you know better. All right. All right. And they told me the way. And I was like, all right, that's the way. That's the way. That's the way. And she didn't want to meditate, but she wanted to be awake. She knew all the answers, but wasn't awake, but wanted to be awake. We're off to a really bad start. Okay, you don't want to meditate. Okay, I got it. Don't have any patience. Okay, I got it. I'm willing to listen to anything. Okay, I got it. Wanted it just handed to her. And I smiled because I was just like, this just isn't how the path works. Just not how it works. And sometimes, some of us we get a little tricky. We're like, oh, maybe try to shortcut the process with psychedelics, and that's okay. Like, but sometimes Well, then we just have to keep taking psychedelics to get the desired reaction all the time. I want to do psychedelics. I don't want to meditate. I don't want to let go of anything. I want the plant medicine to do it for me. I want the Guruji to do it for me. And in this case, this lady, she just wanted it to happen in a permanent fashion because she was tired of suffering and thought she deserved that. I was like, this is not how it works. This is not how it works. I explained to her, it's like, for thousands and thousands of years, people in my position have taught a path of meditation, of silence, of surrender, of letting go. And it's a path where, again, this will sound terrible, but like we, the student, are wrong again and again and again. And it's through being wrong, through being okay with being wrong, through being like, oh yeah, there is a greater way. And I trust in the teacher, I trust in the Dharma, I trust in the path, I trust in the Buddha or Christ, whatever it is. And then we start to see, oh, looky there. When I let go of all my judgments about how the world should be, my mind opens and it expands. But when I judge the entire world and say, the world should be this way and only this way, well, what happens? Our consciousness contracts. It contracts. And so if we're good students on the path, I said this to this lady, I said, well, this is what a good student would do. She got real upset by that. Like, oh, you're judging me. I'm like, no, this is just kind of how it works. Just like, it's what like a good student will study. If you're in school, it's like a good student will study. In the world of spirituality, a good student chooses humility over righteousness. And let me tell you, like I've always had a lot of humility, but also, I've had a strong mind, of course, throughout my life. I mean, you kind of have to have a strong mind to get anywhere in this world. And so there were times when I looked at my teacher and I'd be like, gosh, I really disagree. But I have this hunch that if I give it a little bit of time, I'll find out that he's right. And it just kept happening again and again and again and again, where it's even happened. I don't know if I'm using this word correctly, posthumously. That means after someone has died and gone to heaven. There's even been things after my teacher's died and gone to heaven, and I see, oh my gosh, this lesson only took me 28 years. 28 years. And he might have told it to me 28 times, or 150 times. And it's like I disagree, but I wouldn't outwardly disagree. I just like give it some space. I'd give it some space and just wait and see. And a lot of things I just forgot about. And then eventually, it'd be like a bucket of cold water thrown in my face, and I'd be like, oh, whoa, wow, he was right. He was right. And there'd be this excitement of like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And please, I don't want anyone to hear this teaching the wrong way. I don't want anyone thinking that I'm saying that I'm right about everything, because I have a fun time when I'm with y'all and I throw you curveballs and this and that just to see if there's something in you that gets agitated, because I want you to see that agitation and I want you to work with that thing. Work with that thing. I want you to work with it. Someone in the group came and said, hey, Craig, you seem to pick a lot on the left. And I was like, yeah, because we have a big left-leaning group. And so I need to point out our shadow. I have to point out our bias if we want to be free. But if we want to be right, don't hang out and listen to me. Just watch CNN all day, and you can be in an echo chamber and you can be right all the time. I've seen this. This is a hilarious thing that happens when a couple gets in a fight. the lady will go talk to all her girlfriends, and they will all say, he's the worst guy ever. You're right, you're right, you're right. And the guy, he'll go talk to all his guy friends. They'll be, yeah, man, she's crazy. They're all like this. But that's not the kind of support we need. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. But I can remember I went to a buddy once. I've told you this story before, but I went to a buddy when I was getting a divorce. I told him how crazy my ex-wife was being. And he just looked at me. He's like, Craig, I'm sick of your story. Let's make a new story. And I was like, yeah, but you don't understand. He's like, no, let's make a new story right now. And he brought me in the truth. It was a funny thing because my truth was that I was victim, I was worthless, everybody hated me. That was my truth. That's what I was being righteous about. That's what I was defending. That's what I was saying. You don't understand. This is the truth. And he had a greater perspective of me. He was my friend. And he said, Craig, this is not the truth. This is what someone has told you about yourself and something that you have internalized and are repeating. And so sometimes, like, the things that we are righteous about are terrible things, are terrible things. And it's interesting because if we have like the right concoction of low self-esteem, maybe some bad parenting, and we could throw in a couple other factors there, but let's just say if we have low self-esteem and some bad parenting, we can grow up in this world with some really neurotic beliefs. And the thing about egoic beliefs is our ego doesn't care if our beliefs are healthy or unhealthy, supportive or unsupportive. Sometimes the ego is just like, this is what I am. This is what I've always been. So I'm just going to keep repeating it. It's a funny thing because I'm going to circle back to the Jetsons just for fun. But if you ever see the Jetsons, again, like the cartoon, I don't know when it was made. Let's say it was made in the 70s or the 80s, something like that. But they didn't know what computers were going to look like in the future. And so what they have is they have like these boxes with just like enormous buttons on them, and I think his wife, George's wife, Jane, her problem is her finger. It was hurting because in the future, we all are just going to sit around and we just press a button and then the thing is done for us. The dishes get washed, the laundry gets done, the dog gets walked. And she got tired from pressing the button all day because, that's what housewives in the future do. They just sit on the couch and press the button. And so the point I'm trying to make here is, whenever this cartoon was made, let's say it was made in 1978, they took their experience of computers in 1978 and they projected it into the future. And let me tell you, they did a terrible job. They did a terrible job because the computers in 1978 were terrible computers. They weren't much of a computer at all. In fact, you can see this in Star Wars also. If you watch Star Wars and you see Darth Vader, he's got like this big square box on the center of his chest with like these big buttons on it and lights. And it's like, what the hell you got going on there, man? Like, what is that? It's like, what do you got hanging around your neck? Like, what is that square box? Like, that's not what computers look like, and like the radar and the X-Wing fighter and, the TIE fighters, you're just like, the computer's just terrible, terrible. Again, it's like a computer from 1980. The point I'm making is we take our past and we project it into the future. And often it is so wrong. It's so wrong. It's so confused. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. And just like, everyone who votes for Donald Trump is not a racist, fascist. Like, that's not the truth. Yeah. Mr. Trump may have said some things throughout his history that were not eloquent, that came off as racist. Maybe they were racist, but it doesn't mean every single person who voted for him is a racist. And then the same is true on the left. It's just like whatever Trump people say about the left, you're just a bunch of liberals with your purple hair and this and that. There's going to be some purple hair there. I mean, I've had colored hair before. I've had red and green, and I've had a bleached blonde numerous times. I've had a black. It's just like we live in a world of just this constant projection. And part of waking up is waking up and realizing I am projecting. What would happen if I stop? If I stop? What happens if I stop projecting? If I stop judging? If I stop making everyone around me wrong? What happens if I stop trying to control? What happens? And in the world of spirituality, there's a quality of spirituality where we need to be humble, but there's another quality in the world of spirituality where we need to be an explorer, where we have to be willing to say, I'm going to go beyond my current understanding. So I have to leave my previous understanding behind. I have to leave my expectations behind, my assumptions behind. And I'm going to go off into the world and see for myself what the truth is. And I saw, like at this protest, I saw old friends on both sides. Liberals who I'm like very happy to see and to talk with and to connect with. Conservatives who I'm very happy to see and talk with and connect with. And sometimes I see the two of them talking together. All of us talking together without our label of you're wrong, you're bad, you voted for whoever. It's just like, can we just be people? Can we connect heart to heart, human to human? Can we listen deeply? And whether it's our partner, our child, our boss, our coworker, someone on the other end of the protest or whatever it is, can we see without making the other wrong? Can we see? And then also, I'm going to challenge us even further. Can we take the higher road and actually take a look and say, well, like, how is it that I'm wrong? How is it that I'm confused? How is it that I'm limiting my view of reality? I saw this very interesting thing about the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, and they showed this picture of him, and he was in his bedroom, and he was wearing a red shirt, and it was a red shirt that was just blank. I had a shirt like that once, it's like a red shirt, and it's kind of faded and worn out. I just saw him, it's just a picture of him just standing in his bedroom, the red shirt on. And it's like, all right, there's the guy. And then someone took that same picture and they like transposed, I don't know how they did, worked with Photoshop or whatever, just turned his red shirt into a Trump shirt. And it's like all of a sudden, all these thoughts and beliefs just flood into one's consciousness. And of course, in the modern age, like we have to be careful so much with, whatever it is on the internet we see. It's like, is this thing actually real? More and more as, we move into the AI age, it's like, oh my gosh, what's real? What's real? But it's beautiful just to see this guy, it's like, okay, here's the bad guy with the red shirt on. And here's the same guy with the same red shirt, but it said something on the shirt, and it's like, oh boy, What does that mean? What does that mean? We don't have to ask. It just fills our head with ideas. Just one word. One word. And it was funny too, because again, like, just being in my little town, just trying to go for a little bike ride. I mean, what was my family doing? We're trying to go skip rocks at the river because I got real excited because I was on a big mountain bike ride, and on the top of the mountain where I was at, there was just all these little flat rocks. So I like filled up my backpack with all these flat rocks, and my little girl's always asking me like, "Daddy, how do you skip rocks so good?" And I brought home all these perfect skippable rocks. And so I was like, I'll take the family down to the river. And I didn't realize, I was like, oh boy, there's like a big, political rally going on. And so we got involved in something, and it just took one word to, you could see like these, like there's nothing like a really old peace loving Democrat with a sign. It's just like, all right, so just like walking down the street with a sign, then you got a big old boy drive by with a pickup truck, and all he has to do is yell Trump, and her happy smile goes, he can't say that. Then she's screaming at the truck, and he's honking his horn, and it's like, oh my Lord, come on, folks, come on, can we be kind to each other? And if we're going to take the higher road, we can't just allow one little word to make us go crazy. And we've all had this. We've all had this within our family system. Our brother, our sister, our mother, our father can say just one word. What do we call this? Pushing our buttons. They're pushing our buttons. They just say this one word, and it's just like, boom, we go through the roof. And where do we go? We get lost in the world of, in the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha called this being on the wheel of samsara. But when we step off the wheel, we just see things as they are. We see that people are suffering. We see they're confused. We see that they are afflicted. I spoke about my friend last week who I saw. I called him Legion. I don't want to say his real name, but call him Legion, like from the Bible. So he has like a mental affliction. And, it's like, if he comes up to me and he starts telling me the CIA are wiretapping his phone, and, the Charlie Kirk assassin is after him too, or whatever it is, because he's told me some real wacky stories, he might tell me that the moon is hollow. There's an alien base on it, and that may or may not be true. But and he's going to tell me all kinds of things. And I'm going to smile, and I'm going to nod, and I don't need to correct him. I don't need to make him wrong. Just listen and know that he is afflicted. He's afflicted. But when we look around at the world, we need to see that the world is afflicted. Like I saw this lady, I had to go to the store today, and when I was at the store, this lady that was like pulling up right up front in the store, and she had a flat tire. She was just like driving on her rim, and I pointed at her tire, and she pointed at it also. And I was going to tell her, it's like, hey, there's a tire shop right here. And she looked at me, and she drove in the opposite direction. That's just what we do in this world. We're afflicted. We're confused. We drive away from the tire shop instead of toward it. And we got the flat tire. And it's just part of being a human being is there's a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion in most humans. And so we have to know this, that often people will tell you, hey, I'm on the spiritual path. And you'd be like, oh, this is so good to meet you. And then very quickly, they will proceed to just vomit, their egoic story all over you. And it's like, oh, are you on the spiritual path? Or are you in the world of ego? in the world of ego, in the world of belief, in the world of judgment, in the world of everybody's wrong except for me. And so this path, it requires tremendous humility and a willingness to say, okay, I'm willing to sit and listen and hear another way. And in the modern age, most people won't do that. They'll say, I need you to honor all my trauma first. And I need you to honor my political orientation. I need you to honor every step I've made in this world. And then I'm going to make some demands of God. And then I'm going to be angry at God. And then I'm going to show up on the path and complain why it's not working. Just like, no. None of that's right. That's not how it works. You show up in silence. And when you sit in silence, I learned this when I was like 14. I started meditating. I sat in silence. And what was the first thing I discovered? Well, I already knew that God was great. I knew that God was expansive. I knew that, that God is love. What did I learn about myself? My mind is absolutely and completely effing crazy. That's what I learned. That's what I learned. When I sat in meditation, I learned that this mind is not trustworthy, that this mind is a liar, that this mind is mentally ill, that this mind, like at that time, it is pretty hilarious. I had a broken heart, is what it was. Is my mind thought I couldn't live without some girl. She was a really nice girl. Like she was a really nice girl. That like I still like her. She's a great girl, but I can live without her. I can live without her. But my mind's like, you cannot live without her. You have to get her back. You have to. You must. You must. That's what my mind was telling me. And it's like from the moment I'd wake up in the morning till, like 2 a.m. when I'd fall asleep at night, because I couldn't sleep because I was in so much pain. Was just like constantly grasping at this human being, absolutely lost. And when I'd sit down to meditate, I saw one thing. This mind is crazy. But as I continued to sit, I saw, oh, and I think there's a lot of space here. There's another reality here, a greater reality, a reality where I, the essential one, am not crazy, where I am completely whole. And that means I don't need somebody else. There's a reality where not only am I whole, but I am everything. It's like, oh, I'm everything. And it's a funny thing when it really dawns on you that you are everything. It's like, am I going to hate the Trump people if I'm everything? Oh, I can't hate. I can't hate. Hatred doesn't make sense from this other reality. Your wrong doesn't make sense. But I'm wrong makes sense because it's a doorway. It's a doorway into greater space. And I hope that, that works for you all. That works for you all. With a lot of us, like, I'm not wrong. I'm right. I am so right. And if you just notice just that energy of I'm so right, it draws all your energy to the center It makes you feel solid, and it puts you in a state of fight or flight. And that can't be the spiritual path. that just can't be the spiritual path. But it's a great way to be at a protest. It's like, we're right, you're wrong. No, 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 no. I saw this guy too on Instagram. It was a funny thing. It was a meme, making fun of the people at the King's protest. And but the meme was like the guy adjusted the signs, so it was like a bunch of people. It was something like from Family Guy or something. So it was a bunch of people holding signs, and the signs said no kings on it, but the people all had these Q shirts on, and I was like, I think the Q thing was the Trump it was the Trump people. So the person, like, they were trying to use a meme the wrong way. Is they stole someone else's meme. It was originally a liberal meme against Trump people, and they flipped it around and made it a meme against liberal people. And it's just like, world, y'all are so crazy. Y'all are so crazy. That craziness on both sides, on every side. And if we could admit, I have been crazy, I have been confused, I have been righteous, then we're walking in the direction of freedom. Then we're walking in the direction of great humility. But if we walk forward with, I know how the world should be, I know the way. Half the world is wrong, and the half that I'm on is right. It's just like, that's called the wheel of samsara. That's not the spiritual path. That's the wheel of samsara. And I know what people are going to ask. They're going to say, well, what? It's like, please, by all means, vote. I think there's a vote coming up in a couple of weeks from now. Like, go vote, and vote in alignment with your highest nature, your heart, your truth. Vote. Please vote. Please vote. But this is much greater than politics. This is our path. Do we walk our path with great righteousness or with great humility? And if we're walking toward God, toward freedom, toward the realm of spiritual awakening, we want to be on that path of humility. The path of humility. The path of righteousness takes us into the land of ego. The path of humility. The path of peacemaking. Peacemaking is reaching your hand across the aisle. And again, if across the aisle, sometimes it's to your husband or your wife or your kid, and saying, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you, and I love you. And I'll say this, if they deserve it. If they deserve it. If they deserve it. And I hope you can understand that there's certainly a time and a place for an apology. And there's certainly, for all you people at the protest, there's certainly a time and a place to stand up and say, hell no, we won't go. There's certainly a place for that too. I see that. I know that. Of course there's a place for that. Of course there's a place for your voice. Of course there is. But sometimes, especially in the modern age, we think that our voice, our way, our idea, our opinion is the one and only way. I can tell you this funny thing. I started doing this app, using this app, and I developed an addiction. It's not really an addiction, but I noticed my consciousness being played by I want to call it the algorithm. I don't know if that's the right word. The algorithm, the technology, the setup, the conditioning, whatever it is, of this thing called Duolingo. Just like I wanted to learn me some Spanish. Yo habla español. So, and there's this thing on the app where you compete with other players. And I noticed that I really liked being number one on Duolingo. I really liked it. And, like I was, I don't want to say I was eating less food, but like maybe I was cooking and letting my food burn because I was busy trying to get all the matches, trying to get the matches on Duolingo and playing all the games and this and that because I wanted to get to number one. I wanted to get the gold medal or whatever it is. They have these things. I think it's called they just have they have these just different cups, and I made it to the gold cup. Like you start off at bronze and then you go silver, then gold, right? That's how it works. But I made it, to gold, and then it showed me like this other gold where I had to go bronze, silver, gold again, and I just had to keep competing to get to the next level, I guess is what it is. So the thing they gamify, I think that's the right word, learning a language. And I noticed, I was like, this app has plugged into Craig's shadow. Because when I used to go to school, I liked to get an A+ on my tests. And I used to get A+ on everything except math. I just didn't do it on math. I couldn't pull it off on math. But just, you give me a test and I'd get an A+ on it. And now, so on Duolingo, I'm like, I want to get that A+. I want to get it. I want to get it. I want it. It's absolutely silly. And so I'm seeing this and I'm saying, Craig, are you willing to see your own illusions? Yes. I've got an illusion here that I need to be number one in Duolingo. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. But all of us are constantly being conditioned in these echo chambers. And whether it's our friends, our family, our tribe, where they're supporting us in agreed upon illusions. And at some point, if we want to be free, we have to put the app down, put the TV down, and let ourselves lose, put the argument down, let ourselves be wrong. If we want to be free. If we want to be free. And so anyways, let's, Lauren's asked me, Craig, what was the most major issue you disagreed with David about? Oh, it was always about personal stuff in my life, like I would say, hey, this thing happened and it wasn't fair and it's not right. And I'm really hurt. And he would just ask me to be the bigger man. To be the bigger man again and again and again. Be the bigger man. That was the challenge of being on the path. If it was the world of psychology, they'd say, I'm so sorry. You are right. That wasn't fair. We validate the client, right? My teacher, though, he wasn't a psychologist. I mean, he had excellent training. And he studied actually with some pretty incredible psychologists, like Fritz Perls, and folks like that back in the 70s and 60s and this type of thing. But anyways, maybe the 80s. It wasn't like big things that it wasn't like world events and this and that. I mean, there were some things like it was interesting. He was more right leaning and I was more left leaning. And I mean, I was like crazy left, like I was eco-terrorist left is where I was, when I first met my teacher, like I was, but anyways, yeah, it was just, there was all kinds of things that I disagreed with him on, but, it was just again and again and again, life would show me And again, like he never had to raise his voice with me, but like I'd never really argue back. I was just like, okay, like let's just see. Let's just see. We had a nice relationship like that. So it was just like, let's just see. And I was like, oh yeah. Okay. He just seemed to know. He seemed to know. Now listen, I don't want people to hear this. Like, see, here's Justine. I went to the protest in Nashville and it was super good vibes and just lovely. I did not see any fighting. I think they're mostly peaceful across the country. Yeah, mostly peaceful across the country. Go to Portland and see if Portland's peaceful. Like, not peaceful. Go to San Francisco, see if it's peaceful. And like mostly, of course, mostly. I've been to all kinds of protests that are mostly peaceful. Well, also been to protests where people, smashing windows. Yeah. What was that thing back? It's like in the year maybe it was later than 2000. Occupy. Yeah, I remember when Occupy came out, and I was a big fan of Occupy until everyone just started smashing windows everywhere. I was like, hey guys, getting out of control here. Getting out of control. Too many young people who are just ready to tear the whole system down, to tear it down. And Justina, what I'm looking for is where you're wrong, not where you're right. I don't care where you're right. I think it's great that you're right. I think it's beautiful that you're right. I think it's beautiful that people can come together and assemble and protest in a nonviolent fashion. What I'm looking for is for people who step across the aisle and say, hey, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to talk. And whether it's in your house, and again, people are hearing this all wrong if they only hear politics here. We're talking about letting go of our fundamental worldview that I am right, that I know the way. That's what I'm interested in. I don't care if you went to a protest. That was perfect. That was perfect. I want to know how many people there are willing to go and sit down and talk with Mr. Trumpert, his biggest fans. I want to know how many people are willing to say, oh yeah, my cousin, he voted for Trump and he's a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. Like when I went to Nicaragua and I lived with a communist, they were really nice people. They were so good. So good. Such good people. And I grew up in a family where communists were barbarians. They were the devil. We need to have nuclear war and wipe them off the planet. As I went and hung out with the communists, I realized they're really good people. These are people I love. I didn't like their zoo that they had. They had a really terrible zoo. It was just like the vegan animal rights person within me. I just had such judgment about, because it was just like it was absolute abuse what they're doing to these animals. But again, like in an impoverished nation, you're gonna have some things that are, borderline abuse because of lack of funds. I think all zoos are abuse anyways, by the way. But I want to know how you're willing to be wrong. How you're willing to be wrong. What are your illusions if you want to be free? If you don't want to be free, just say, I'm right about everything. I believe every thought I have in my head, and I absolutely know the way. Thank you. Now get the hell out of my way. Get out of my way. Because I'm going forward because I know the way and I know it perfectly. And if we got that kind of view, it's like, oh my God, like we got a word for that in the world of psychology. It's called being a narcissist. Being a narcissist. And in the modern age, well, we're in like one of the most narcissistic times in history. I was listening to Carolyn Mace talk, and she said this funny thing. She said, I want you to think about your parents or your grandparents. Like, so let's think about our grandparents. Our grandparents, like, they didn't go to therapy. They didn't think about themselves. Like they weren't like going to a workshop for themselves or self-growth and this type of thing. It's like they just showed up and worked. Like that's all they did is worked, and drank. Yeah, they worked and drank. That's what my family did. They just worked and drank. But the modern age, it's like, how am I feeling? How am I doing? What's going on in my life? How can I feel better? It's like all this self-absorbed energy. Now, come on, I'm a therapist, so like, we have to work with that, and that's healing to work with. I think it's a step forward. Of course it is. But sometimes if we have just too much psychological validation in our life, where we're always appeasing our ego, we're just building a bigger and bigger jail cell around our soul. And if we want to be free, we might have a long list of our illusions and say, oh yeah, I lie and I cheat and I get really confused at times. And sometimes I make up stories in my head and I believe them. I believe my own stories. I believe my story about my mother, my father, my sister, my brother. I make up stories about half the country. And if we want to be free, we say, oh, I need to get these lies out of my head. I at least just have to say, just stop. Stop. Because sometimes it's not a lie. Sometimes it is absolutely a psychological truth that this person absolutely hurt you. But if we hold on to that as a truth and build an identity around it for 30 years of our life, I'd say that that thing's not serving you any longer. It's doing you harm. It's doing you harm. And I don't care how many people in this room disagree with me, but I'll just say this, that if you want the world to change, it's not going to happen through screaming at someone telling them they're wrong. It's not how the world changes. The world changes through extending an olive branch, saying, hey, I hear you. Let's find a way to work together. I hear you. I want the world to work. Everyone at the protest wants the world to work. Everyone driving a big diesel truck with giant flags hanging out the back saying, Trump, they want the world to work. Everyone wants the world to work. Let's find a way to make it work. Again, whether it's in your family, in your marriage, in your work, in your friendships. I've seen people in this song to tear each other apart. And it's like, oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Please, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you, and I love you. Let's start the Ho'oponopono prayer. I saw this beautiful thing that they used to do this. This kind of used to be a cool thing for spiritual groups. Is they go into impoverished areas in different parts of the country or the world that had great violence and suffering, and they get a bunch of people to meditate together and see if they could send real positive vibrations into the area. And it's a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. It's a lot different than walking around with signs screaming at everyone, you're wrong. Or preaching to the choir. It's like, let's find a way to love each other. Let's find a way to listen to each other. Let's find a way to work together. Let's find a way to work with ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to hear ourselves. And so anyways, Terry wrote, a constant looking for approval, validation from the world, from people, from friends, from family. It's an ancient habit in my mind. This program seems to always be running. Now, how many people have this? This is a human thing. And so, Terry, thank you for coming forward. Thank you for coming forward and doing the work. Are you willing to see your own illusions? I have a constant need for approval and validation from the world, from people, from friends, from family. I've had the same thing for most of my adult life. I always say most of my adult life. I mean, most of my life. Just as a child, it was just rampant. It was like a neurosis within me. Wanted approval, people pleasing, approval, people pleasing, approval, people pleasing. It's just like the whole dance of people pleasing. And at some point, it's like, is this the highest truth? No. No. And so when we have this one, when we have, the approval thing, sometimes we are a neurotic pleaser, always making ourselves wrong and just fitting ourselves into someone else's world. For someone who has this, I'm going to just offer the absolute opposite teaching today. Terry, speak your truth. Let yourself be yourself. And if people don't like you, that's okay. You like you, you love you. Instead of looking outside for approval, you approve of you and you be yourself and let your freak flag fly. If I can say that right. Freak flag fly. And that would be healing. That would be healing. Let yourself be yourself. And so some of us are addicted to what, are addicted to being wrong. And that's not, we need to do the opposite of today's teaching. We need to allow ourselves to be seen, to be heard, to be good. And I think that there's a lot of that. I saw a lot of that at the protest. Again, there's a lot of people saying like, "Hey, I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be known. Feel like I'm safe in the world." And of course, that's a good thing. Of course, that's a good thing. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Let's see. Catherine writes, there's a fight to exist and a drive to improve myself and a fixation on deficiency. Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah. Catherine's willing to see her own illusions. And then the question is Catherine, can you see the truth? That you are a big ball of radiant, fiery light. That you are a big ball of radiant, fiery light. Fiery light. Can you see this? Because the first thing is like, yeah, we just see the illusion and we let it go. But the next question is, well, what is the truth? Can you see your goodness? And in seeing your goodness, there's this funny thing that happens. And it's a great destroyer of protests. I'm just really going to pick on the protesting people here. You said it's all chill and all peaceful and this and that. I was there. It wasn't peaceful at all. It wasn't peaceful at all. It's people screaming at each other. People honking. I saw cars waving. I saw people pushing. It was just like, what the hell's going on in this world? when you see that you are a big ball of light, you see that everyone's a big ball of light. And you see there is no right and there's no wrong. There's no liberal, there's no conservative, there's no masculine, no feminine, no up and down, no this and that. You see, it's all God. It's all good. And you go ahead and vote. And if there's a piece of trash, you pick it up. And if you see something, maybe you say something. But you do it from a place of peace, a place of freedom, knowing and trusting that all is God. All is God. All is God. And that this world is so confused. And boy, is that a messy thing. Boy, is that a messy thing to know that all is God and this world is so confused. It's so crazy. So bizarre, so divided. So clingy, so attached, so needy, so codependent. So righteous, so foolish, so addicted, so lost, so conditioned, like I am by Duolingo. I love it that Duolingo has conditioned me to get me to play an extra 3 minutes a day or whatever it is that they do. I just love it that they're playing me. But as we wake up, we start to see, oh, I'm played by group think. I'm played by group think. When I'm on the left, I think my side cannot sin. Everything is Trump's fault. If we're on Team Trump, everything is the liberals' fault. It's just like, it's insane. We're peaceful. We're good Christians. It's like, give me a break, world. Give me a break. Can we see inherent in the psychological nature of humanity is we're tribal creatures. We're busy killing each other. I was really praying for peace in Israel and Gaza, and I saw, oh, they broke out in war again. It's like, oh my gosh, please, Lord, help us. Help us put down the weapons of war. Help us put down division. Help us put down tribal consciousness. Help us put down us against them. Help us, Lord. Please, please, please. One of the things the aliens say is, we're not going to reveal ourselves until humans put down their weapons. Put down their weapons. Stop fighting with each other. We are the joke of the universe because we are one race and we kill each other. It's like a joke among aliens. They're like, what's wrong with these humans? They're one people and they kill each other. And they do it in the name of peace. They do it in the name of peace. In the name of peace. Isn't that what we're all fighting for? I remember when I was a little boy, what did Ronald Reagan fight for? Peace. He destroyed all of Central America, I think except Costa Rica, but just like all of Central America in the name of peace. He brought the crack epidemic to the United States in the name of peace. It's just like, that was a bad idea. It's a bad idea. A bad idea. It's horrific, horrific. In the name of peace. Peace through strength. For those of you who are old enough to remember, Mr. Reagan. George Bush, he wanted to bring peace to the Middle East too. Insane. Insane. I think Mr. Trump wants to bring peace to Venezuela through toppling. It's like, please, let's not do that. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. Let's not have another war. But if we don't want war, I encourage you to be undivided inside. Because that's one thing we've never tried here on planet Earth, for our world to be undivided. And so I'm going to leave you all with that. Can you look at how you are divided? And can you ask yourself, what would my life be like to be undivided? Undivided. Oh, Heavenly Mother, will you give us the strength to live from the highest truth, the highest peace, a peace beyond division? And oh, Heavenly Mother, will you give the people who I offended this evening, will you give them the strength to forgive me? Because it wasn't my intention. All you blue-haired liberals. I'm one of you, so don't take it too personally. So much love to each of you. May peace prevail. May truth prevail. May love prevail throughout all of creation. And so we're being challenged. Can you live from a place that's undivided? That's what I want to hear about. That's what I want to hear about in the future. Okay. So much love. Good night, everyone.